I think the best way to describe what we witnessed on Saturday in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena is, if you are a longtime fan of this sport, if you're someone who watched in the 90s, in the early 2000s, if you're someone who watched in the Tough era, in the pre-Conor era, in the post-Conor era, in the Fox era, in the ESPN era, the pre-pandemic era, the post-pandemic era, if you're one of those fans, it doesn't matter who you are either reminded, you are either reassured, or you either learned on Saturday why this sport is so special and why the UFC is so special and why perhaps you fell in love with this sport way back when, why you currently love the sport, why you're intrigued by the sport. There are so many different fans now converging on this sport. There's the old school fans. There's the ones who came in the last few years. They're the ones who are brand new, and they're the ones who are just checking it out. And I heard from a lot of those fans in the last column who said, holy shit, is it always like this? The UFC nailed it on Saturday in so many different ways. And yes, the road to get to UFC 300 was a little bumpy at times, and there were things that we here on this show and every other MMA show on the planet nitpicked, and I think it was all fair game, from the build-up to the poster to all that nonsense. But once the week started in Las Vegas, the UFC got it right, and they nailed it every step of the way. From the press conference on Thursday and the reveal of all the fighters sitting at the dais, every single fighter who is set to compete on this card, to even the photo shoots of all the current champs and former champions coming together. The weigh-ins were as smooth as can be. The glove revealed it felt like we were watching something new, the dawn of a new era. And then the card itself. And what was so interesting about this particular card, 13 fights total. Once it was all locked in, it was the antithesis in many respects of UFC 200. Once every fight was locked in, signed, finalized, done deal, it was the complete antithesis of UFC 200 in this respect. No fights were canceled. No one pulled out. No one withdrew. No one failed a drug test. No one missed weight. It was smooth sailing. And I remember watching, UFC 100 was a big deal. It was Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir, was the WWE star who now turned into the big MMA star. And he headlined, and there were, 3 big fights at the top of the bill. Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson, George St. Pierre against Thiago Alves, and then, of course, Brock versus Frank 2. I remember watching PTI on the Monday after UFC 100, and it was Tony Kornheiser and it was Michael Wilbon, and they were debating, what it is that they just saw on Saturday. And it was the pro wrestler turned MMA fighter who was talking about Coors Light, who was talking about getting on top of his wife, who was talking about, he was going up into the cage and going, and there was foam coming out of his mouth. You remember that? And they're like, this is some crazy stuff. They weren't sure what to make of it all. That was really the talk after UFC 100. The sport was still kind of going like this, so it wasn't quite certain where it would end up. And then the talk, honestly, after 200 was, that was great, but it could have been so much better. It could have been John Jones versus Daniel Cormier 2, and what does this mean for John Jones? And all of that was a black cloud hanging over it all. And then the Brock Lesnar thing was a black cloud hanging over it all, and it all felt like it was great. But man, on the Monday after 200, the big story wasn't necessarily 200. For a minute, it wasn't even John Jones. It wasn't Brock Lesnar. It was the sale of the company. The company was sold, or at least it was announced that it was going to be sold on the Sunday heading into Monday, and that became the top story. I remember sitting in a chair like this one doing this show, talking about that to lead off the show. On this Monday, April 15, 2024, after UFC 300, it's just about what we saw on Saturday. And isn't that great? It's about Max Holloway and him pointing to the ground with 10 seconds left in a fight that he's up 4-0. He could have coasted, put his hands up, gone like this, and he would have won that fight fair and square, and probably still would have won the fight of the night bonus. Instead, he goes back to UFC 199 against Ricardo Lamas, and he says, meet me in the middle right here. The freaking shot heard around the world, the point seen around the world, and then he knocks out Justin Gaethje in one of the greatest finishes in UFC history and one of the most dramatic finishes in UFC history, up there, in my opinion, with one of the best stoppages ever alongside Yair Rodriguez and the Korean Zombie. You'll recall on the 25th anniversary show, the upward elbow with a second left in the 5th round. Now, that was a fight night at 1:30 in the morning on FS1. This is UFC 300 in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena, one of the biggest gates, 3rd biggest ever, one of the biggest pay-per-view audiences in UFC history. That number isn't out yet, but I can assure you it'll be over 1 million, well over 1 million, in my opinion, once it's all said and done. It's about Alex Pereira, 8 fights into his UFC career, has headlined MSG twice, 2-division champion, knocking out 5 current or former champions, doing it again on Saturday to Jamal Hill, and was never phased. We find out that he had a broken toe going into the fight, and the guy was just like, it was like a walk in the park for him. And look, Jamal Hill isn't the biggest fan of mine, but let me tip my cap to him. Let me say, coming back after 9 months is pretty damn remarkable. After an Achilles tear in July of last year, to come back and be in this spot, it's pretty damn amazing. I tip my cap to him. And to say everything that he said, people are using that against him. No, that's what you have to say going into a fight like this. That's how you have to think, feel, and believe going into a fight like this. You have to believe that in your heart that this guy isn't on your level. And so you can't use those words against him now in the aftermath. That's bullshit internet stuff. You have to feel it and believe it. And look, it didn't work out. And he met a superior fighter and striker on Saturday. Not the end, but Alex Pereira is on some kind of heater right now. And the way in which he just went in there, he is a showman. And it's rare that we see a showman like him connect with an audience who doesn't really speak English. He doesn't have to speak English. He is so stoic, but he is so dangerous, and he is so intimidating and so athletic, so talented, that you just can't help but watch this guy. Walks out there, he does his patented walk, he does the bow and arrow. Jamal's out there, shades of Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, get in the cage, which, by the way, earlier in the night we found out is going into the Hall of Fame, UFC 117, one of the greatest nights in the history of this sport. And then very early on, he gets hit in the groin, he shoos off Herb Dean, he knocks out Jamal Hill, and then he just brushes him aside. And whether he'll admit it or not, a little bit of payback for what Jamal Hill did to his mentor, Glover Teixeira, back in January of 2023. What a star, what a moment that was. Does he come back at 301? We'll find out. Something tells me a bit of a long shot, but I wouldn't put it past him. Why not? Why can't he get an Anderson Silva, Stephan Bonner, may rest in peace, like fight? Why can't he get a James Irvin-like fight, which Anderson Silva did when he was the 185-pound champion? It doesn't have to be a title fight. Just give him any kind of fight. He's must-see TV. So you get a performance like that. You get Max. You get Zhang Wei Li, which, let's be honest, we're all in a bit of a fog, but she's the best female fighter on the planet, pound for pound, #1. She was this close to finishing the fight in the first round. In the end, historic fight. First time 2 Chinese-born fighters fight for a title in the UFC. Tremendous stuff. And she once again puts the exclamation point. She is the best. But it's the return of Yiri Prochazka. It's the debut of Kayla Harrison. It's Diego Lopez. It's Arman Tsarukyan, and what a fight that was. It's Renato Moicano. It's Davidson Figueiredo. Everyone stepped up. And Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, we put the bells and whistles, we do this, we do that. At the end of the day, it's the fighters who have to step up. And whether it was the $300K bonuses, whether it was the bright lights, I don't know what it was. They all recognized everyone wanted to be on this card. The fighters freaking stepped up. And for me as someone, because I'll speak on that category right there, the first one, who's been watching since the 90s, it's just a reminder of why this sport is so special and why these fighters are so special and why we love this. That was a 7.5-hour card. It did not feel like that. And I was tired. And I never felt like it dragged. It was like, oh shit, now it's Diego Lopez and Sadiq Youssef. Oh shit, now it's Kayla Harrison's debut. Oh shit, now it's Yiri Prochazka. Oh shit, now it's Bo Nickel. Like, it just, every fight coming up was like, oh shit, this is up, this is up, this is up. It was fun. It was exciting. It was entertaining. They hit all the notes. They honored the past. There was nostalgia, the old graphics, the music, the intro, Mark Coleman. It was a 11 out of 10. There's literally nothing that you could say. Every fight delivered. Every fight was interesting. Every fight was intriguing. Every fight had its own storyline. Every fight mattered. Every fight had stakes. People are talking about the sport in a positive way on this Monday. Everything felt big. Everything felt important. Everything was fun. Everything was entertaining. If you bought tickets, you got your money's worth. If you bought the pay-per-view, you got your money's worth. What more is there to say? There is a lot more to say, and we're going to be talking about it all show long today here on the program. I can't wait to get into it. That was a long intro. I apologize, but it's great to be here on this Monday. As always, we are presented by our good friends over at DraftKings. More on them later on in the program. And how about the Parlay Boys? Rolling along now. Yes, the losing streak very much in the rearview mirror. It's a great time to be alive. Shout out also to our good friends at BetterHelp. More on them in the program as well. Now, back into the show, we'll hear from the Parlay Boys. We'll get the final word, the final verdict on their picks, GC's picks. What a week it was with the team out in Las Vegas. We did 2 shows out there. They did the watch party, full card watch party on Saturday. And once again, I'll reiterate, if you didn't watch those shows, it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. We had 7 in-studio guests stop by. We're hopefully going to do more of that. And I just have to tip my cap once again to everyone back there who pulled that off and everyone here who wasn't with us, but from a technical standpoint, who helped us pull that off, because that wasn't easy. The internet was problematic. We're in a hotel room. We're trying to do this as smooth and nice as can be, and they knocked it out of the park. I just showed up and was talking into a microphone, and all that other stuff is well above my pay grade, and there were no issues, no glitches, no lagging streams, nothing. It was incredible to be a part of, and I was really, really proud to be a part of it, and so thankful and grateful to everyone back there who made it happen. So I hope you enjoyed those special shows, and I thought it was, befitting of the week and moment. And like I said, hopefully we get more of that. Now, prior to all of that, we're going to have Jorge Masvidal join us in studio. They had the first leg of their 4-city press conference tour on Friday in Las Vegas. It was Masvidal, it was Diaz. It was pretty good. It was well attended. The next leg is tomorrow here in New York. Then they're going to Dallas. Then it's Los Angeles. Gamebred joining us in studio. He hasn't joined us in studio since, I think, 2017, when he said that infamous, I pop him and I run type of thing. Anyway, Gamebred will join us in studio. He was at the event on Saturday, and of course, he's the first man to ever win officially the BMF title, although Nate Diaz did sort of create it after the Anthony Pettis fight in August of 2019. It's great to have Gamebred. He'll join us in studio at 4 o'clock. At 3:30, Aljamain Sterling, who made his featherweight debut on Saturday, he defeated Calvin Kattar. He will stop by to talk about his new life at 145 pounds. Diego Lopez is an absolute star. He's just unbelievable. This guy takes a fight against Movsar Evloev on 5 days' notice. It doesn't go his way, but gives him a tough freaking fight, and all he does is win since then. It's now 3 in a row, 3 finishes, and he stopped Sadiq Youssef, who's a really tough and talented guy, in just 89 seconds. Shout out to Diego Lopez, who speaks both Portuguese, both Spanish, and now he's dropping in a little English as well. Tremendous stuff. We'll talk to him. Prior to that, we'll talk to Manny Moicano. Looked a little dicey there for a minute. First 10 seconds, he got hit to the body with a kick, and it looked like it could have been dicey there. And then he got in serious trouble. Turner walked away. Moicano got, a little bit of breathing room, and he ended up picking up the win. Shout out to Manny Moicano. Big win for him. Arman Tsarukyan told us last week, I'll see you on Monday. He's a man of his word. He'll see us today after the big win over Charles Oliveira. And that looked dicey. Probably the tightest guillotine attempt that I've seen someone escape since Alex Volkanovski did it against Brian Ortega back at UFC 266. He did escape, and holy shit, just as impressive. Thought he was done. His face was like turning red. It looked like he couldn't breathe. I'm sure he couldn't breathe, and he got out of it. Shout out to Arman. We suspect he's the number 1 contender, although there is a title fight happening before he gets his title fight, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. Kayla Harrison will join us at 2 o'clock to talk about her debut. So it wasn't just about 300, by the way. If you stayed up late or you found out on Sunday, we also found out 2, dare I say 3, massive pieces of news via the post-fight press conference. Now, if I were to nitpick about one thing, if that's all right, if I can nitpick about one thing, I do believe that the return of the biggest star in the history of this sport, the biggest star in the UFC, deserves a little more pomp and circumstance than a little piece of paper like this big being brought to Dana White at it looked like this. And he's like, oh, what do we have here? Now, when he said it on Friday, it was Cap City. It was a done deal. It was a done deal prior to that. And in the conversations that I had heard that there was a debate as to how they would announce it. If it was up to me, if I was leading the charge, I would have announced it during the show, maybe on the ESPN prelims, ABC prelims, or at some point in the pay-per-view like they've done time and time again, but they opted to save it for the post-fight press conference, so it is official. It is going down. UFC 303, June 29th, Las Vegas, International Fight Week, main event, 5-round fight, 170 pounds. It's Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, like he told us back on December 31st. Yes, the only difference is it's 170 and 185, but, close enough. I don't think many of us thought it would be 185. And he did say that he was being a little cheeky when we spoke to him a few weeks ago. So that's a done deal. But then we also found out that the main event for UFC 302, very close to here across the river in New Jersey, Newark to be exact, Prudential Center, will be Issa Makhachev defending his lightweight title. So great to see him back. Great to see him fighting in the United States against Dustin Poirier. So how big was that win over BSD? It ended up getting him a title shot. Dustin Poirier gets the title shot one more time. Can Dustin finish his story? We just saw Cody Rhodes finish the story. Can El Diamante, one of the most beloved fighters in UFC history to never win an undisputed title, can he finish the story on June 1st? We'll find out. It's Makhachev Poirier, June 1st, main event, UFC 302. We also found out it's going to be Sean Strickland in his first fight since losing the middleweight title to DDP. Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa in a 5-round co-main event. Now, it hasn't been deemed a number one contender fight. Never really quite sure how they determine what becomes a 5-round fight and what doesn't. Of course, we know later on in the month, June 22nd to be exact, it's going to be Robert Whittaker against Khamzat Chimaev in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. A lot of us suspect that that's a number one contender fight, but still, it's a very important fight, and something tells me the buildup to this fight is going to be fascinating. So we got 3 massive pieces of news. Could talk about all that and a hell of a lot more. Let me talk to the boys about what we saw on Saturday. They did a great job all week, had the watch party. How you feeling, GC, first things first? 7-hour watch, 7.5-hour watch party. Did you survive? Did you feel like crashing afterwards? Your microphone is not working right now. I don't hear you. I'm hearing you off of someone else's microphone.
All right, we're just going to do a little mic check here live.
No, that is not working either. Rick, can you say something?
Check.
Well, just a little bit more than just one freaking word.
Hello.
No, your microphone sounds like shit as well.
How about now? I'm coming through?
You're very loud. It's not as crisp as usual.
Very loud, yeah. So he can't hear me now. Now we just got to get...
No. This sounds awful. I don't know what's going on back there, but it sounds awful. Now I don't hear you all. This is a fantastic. I'm coming out hot out of the gate, and nothing's working. I love it. Okay, so Frankie is working on it. We'll get to Frankie and the guys in a moment. But yes, they did 7.5 hours on Saturday. Some great reactions. Actually, we had some. We actually have some clips of the reactions. Let's see GC and Mike react to the Max Holloway win, the pointing to the ground. Do we have that one? Max Holloway knocking out Justin Gaethje. Here it is.
You crazy bitch. 8 seconds. They said go to the middle. Swing it out. Go to the middle and swing it out. Come on, Max. 3 to... Oh! It's over. Max Holloway just sparked out Justin Gaethje. Oh, he just killed him.
This is amazing. I mean, this was the world.
Oh my God!
Justin Gaethje is unconscious face down.
Oh my God! That was the sickest thing I've ever seen.
With 1 second left.
He said, "Meet the middle of the octagon."
That was the whole world.
Oh my
Every
God.
single person on the planet reacted that way because everyone thought, all right, great win, great fight, fun, as we expected, 5 rounds, but it was clearly a Max Holloway fight. Justin had his moments, and then it's like, oh, wait a second. He's doing the Ricardo Lamas thing. He's doing the 199 thing. He's pointing to the ground. He's actually going to do it. And Justin is obliged. I mean, what does he have to lose at that point, right? Swing for the fences. And then he knocks him out cold. Face first, face plant, Ric Flair style. You feel bad for Gaethje. And look, I have had my things to say about the BMF title. I still feel like the best fighter, the BMF, the number one guy is the champion. But it does seem to bring out something. And yes, it's strategically booked, right? Like Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier are allergic to boring fights, as are Gaethje and Holloway, as are Masvidal and Diaz. Those are the 3 BMF title fights that we've had. This validated it. This made it seem like a thing. This made it seem important. And I think that fight is ending that way. If it's a 5-round fight, it's ending that exact same way, whether there's a title on the line or not. That fight is going to end that way because of who's involved and just how they are and how they're wired. But I mean, is it not perfect that Max Holloway, one of the most beloved fighters in MMA and UFC history, is the holder of that belt? And what about the fact that not that long ago, Max Holloway loses his 3rd title fight to Alex Volkanovski? And what about the fact that we wonder, okay, like, what's he going to do? Is he just going to be that contender? Is he going to try to go for a run at 155? But, oh, by the way, in 2019, he went up to 155 and he met Dustin Poirier and it did not go his way. And so what is he going to be now? Is he going to be, that guy who's just kind of around, but the UFC doesn't want to put him in important title fights because he'll be that guy who will knock off contenders like he did against the likes of Arnold Allen? Like, what do you do with him? And now fast forward to mid-2024 and all of a sudden he's on fire. He's like the most popular guy in the sport on this Monday, most talked about guy on this sport, more talked about than anyone else on the card, obviously, because of the finish. He walks away with a $600,000 bonus. That's never happened before because there's never been bonuses that were $300 each. He got the fight of the night and the performance of the night bonus. And all of a sudden, it's Max Holloway staring at a scenario where he could, say, hey, I'm the number one guy at 55 and 45. And it's Volk, who I still believe is one of the greatest of all time, obviously, who's coming off the loss, who's now on a 2-fight losing streak. Like, how quickly everything changes. It's unbelievable. Now, because of what happened on Saturday, because of the announcement, this is how I think, like, when Max won, he called out to Poirier and he called out Makhachev. And then I was looking at things and I was like, all right, like, he can have a legitimate claim to both the 55 title next and the 45 title next. The world is his oyster. He's got the whole world in his hands. And I thought, all right, what's he going to do? Because he mentioned both of them, and they're both massive fights, in large part because he's a part of them, because he's that damn good. But then we found out in the post-fight press conference that it's going to be, as I said, Islam versus Dustin Poirier. And I had heard, and we'll talk to Armin about this, that they did ask Armin if he wanted to fight on June 1st, but the turnaround, understandably so, a little too soon. That's in a month and a half. That's less than the time frame that DDP got when he was offered the Izzy fight in September in Australia. Less than a month and a half. So Armin said, I'm going to chill. So what I think happens now, the best thing to happen to Armin was not only him winning, of course, but Justin losing. And you feel for Justin. Talk about how things change. Back in July, Justin Gaethje knocked out Dustin Poirier. He takes this fight, wins the belt, of course, at the BMF belt, and now he's not fighting for the real belt, and Dustin is after one. Like, it's just so crazy. It's all kill or be killed stuff. And you have a scenario where Justin now is obviously going to need some time off. Dustin's fighting for the belt. I think you do this title fight in a month and a half, and Armin fights the winner. If it's Makhachev, it's a perfect fight for Abu Dhabi, and if it's not, then you're getting ATT versus ATT, although Islam probably gets a rematch, and that would probably be in Abu Dhabi as well. So I think Armin will be next, just by virtue of the fact that they asked him to fight on this card. And then I think you got to do Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. How do you not do that fight? They showed Ilia in the front row, and I know people said that he looked nervous, and, I know that people can, I know people were saying, like, okay, he looked scared, he looked nervous, he looked this, he looked that. They're putting a camera on this guy sitting in the front row. Like, we're getting real time. Ilia Topuria is not scared of anyone. Stop with this stuff. He'd probably like, oh shit, all right, here we go. I got a big time fight. Now, does it happen in Spain? Does it happen at the Bernabeu? Does it happen somewhere else? Not in Madrid, but I don't know. But all I know is Topuria versus Max is one of the biggest fights that the UFC can make right now. And I wonder what that means for Volk, but Max has all the momentum. And I also wonder if he defends the BMF title in that fight. Like, are both belts on the line? Remember, when Jorge won the BMF title. He didn't defend it when he fought Kamaru Usman in his next fight. So maybe it chills for a little bit. Who knows? But that's how I kind of see things shaking out at 45 and 55 after what happened on Saturday. Huge win for Arman. Charles was so close, still very much in the mix. But I think Arman will be next after the Makhachev-Poirier fight plays out, and I think Max has to be next at this point. The other big question is, what do they do with Alex Pereira? Again, I would love to see him come back. I could totally understand if the UFC doesn't want him to come back, and at 301, that is, on May 4th. And I can understand if his team doesn't want him to come back with the injured toe. I did ask his team if that was being discussed at the moment. Haven't heard back just yet. But that would be epic shit right there.
All right, man. I think we're both good now.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Frank working his magic. Yeah, sounds like he got me now.
Oh, you're both back.
Calm, cool, collected.
Got it done,
Guys
baby.
like Jordan in Game 7 of the finals got it done.
Well done.
Turning around. Yeah.
Let me just finish one thing because I wanted to get one thing out.
Finish it. Sorry.
I just want to say, when I was talking about everything, the new people, the old people, the people who are just checking out the sport, I do hope that every single promoter on the planet was watching Saturday's card. And I'm not just talking MMA promoters, but Lord knows every single MMA promoter is fooling themselves if they're not trying to at least learn from the UFC and copy the UFC. But I really hope boxing promoters and boxing broadcasters were watching that card on Saturday. That's how we want our combat sports. 13 fights, 3 of them were 5-round fights, meaning 25-minute fights. It all kept moving. There was no fluff. There was no time killing. There was no let's send it here, let's send it there. Of course, some fights are ending shortly, and you have to go because it's on TV and there's commercials and all that stuff. But like once it got rolling, that thing I really felt flew by. And yes, it went well past 1 a.m. That usually happens when you have 3 25-minute fights scheduled, and 2 of them went the distance. Essentially, I know the max one was 1 second short, but you get the point. I really hope they watch this and learn that this is how it should move along. This is the pace. This is the speed. This is what people want. Boom, 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 boom. You already got us. You don't need to sell us while we're there. We're locked in. We bought the pay-per-view. We've committed. We're devoting our night to it. Stop selling us while we're there. We don't need the fluff. We don't need the filler. We just want to see the action. A nice little package is great. Perfect. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, wonderful. But keep it rolling, and I hope everyone learned from that. All right, let's go to the guys. You guys good? You guys ready to go? Oh, my God. Really? I hope you're fucking with me.
Hello.
Yes. What is going on?
Nothing. We're here.
Yeah, that was like a 20-second delay when I said, are you good? Is everything good?
Everything is good.
Connor?
Yeah, I think everything's good.
What is going on?
We're good.
Technical issues, man.
So,
Okay.
UFC 300.
All right.
Max Holloway, baby.
I want to ask that question
the
to
best
you.
is blessed.
7.5 hours. What was it like?
It was a lot, man. It was a lot, but it went by quick because of how good the card was. The card was fantastic. We got carried by the Holloway finish, the Diego Lopez first-round finish. We started off with a finish in the Figueiredo fight. The Kayla Harrison debut was unbelievable. What else happened? The Charles fight was incredible. Oh, my gosh, the Yiri fight. If I made it halfway through that card, any tiredness went away once Yiri Prochazka got in the cage and did his thing. And then the main card, it was easy. So, yeah, it honestly went by fast. It's what you said earlier. Like, it was just flying by. Don't know how soon I want to sign up for a full card stream again. By the end, you are kind of like, man, these lights are starting to get a lot, huh? Like, they've really been bearing down on you for a while. But if a card calls for it, if it has the depth of UFC 300, I would happily do it again.
Okay, so maybe a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway. Rick, what's the top story? On the Monday, we were talking about this last week. What's the top story? You're at the water cooler. If someone says, oh, that UFC 300 happened this weekend, what's the first thing you're telling them about?
I'll tell you what all my friends who are like semi-casual MMA fans were talking about, and that's Max Holloway.
Yeah.
It's got to be Max.
It's Max for sure. When I talked to my girlfriend on the phone who is very busy doing some other work, and she didn't get to see it, and just getting to explain to her without her having seen it what transpired, it was like Oh my gosh, that really was just such a sick moment. I cannot believe that happened. It was amazing. And then I was getting lunch today, and shout out, got the 300 shirt on.
Yeah.
The guy serving up the lunch was like, "Oh, sick shirt, man, UFC 300." And I was just like, "Yeah, you watched it?" He's like, "Yeah, how about Holloway and Gaethje, huh?" I think that's the litmus test right there. The guy in the lunch line tells you
That is it. Yes, and that is a nice shirt, by the way.
Oh, got the shirt, got the fanny pack on too.
Oh yeah, no, you're so wow. That's a nice fanny. Ooh, it's got some white in it.
Got some white, got multiple zippers here. Holds the phone. Holds the keys, wallet, whatever you need. I'm 300 branded out over here. Some people got BMF belts. Some people got championship belts. I got myself a fanny pack. I'm telling you, in a few years, this thing's gonna be vintage. This thing is going to be nice.
You know what's crazy? I remember when the UFC was just rolling, like this was now in the tough era. I remember Dana saying that there was a discussion about like, should we get rid of the numbers? And that's another thing that if I was a promotion, I look at the UFC and I was like, if they don't have numbers, this is just a card in April. It's like a pay-per-view. It's they're rolling right now, they're killing it, but it's just a card in April. The numbers allowed for this to be a thing, and if you're a very new fan, I hate to break the news to you, it's not the 300th card in UFC history. It's not even the 300th pay-per-view, to be honest, because there was a half one, I think 37 and a half off the top of my head. There was 151 was canceled, 177 was canceled. There were some spike ones that were like 70 and 75, and then 122 were all numbered but not pay-per-view. So the point is, it's just a thing, but it just shows when there's something that we want to celebrate, when there's something that feels round and whole, when there's something that feels like it's a moment in time, everyone gets up for it, and it's beautiful. And that's another thing that I would copy if I was running a promotion. You don't have to do it the exact same way, but it's just like a thing that was almost fabricated that everyone celebrated and rose to the occasion. And they really do deserve, like, those graphics and like bringing back the whatever that guy's name is, the old school guy, Ultiman, and then bringing back the music and the Face the Pain. They really freaking nailed it. Didn't they, EJ? Like, it was just amazing.
I loved every second of that. The classic little touches. I'm actually curious what Conor thought of those, because naturally we have associations with it. But GC,
I went back and rewatched some of UFC 100 and 200. UFC posted the full cards on their YouTube channels, and I immediately picked up because I think they remade the UFC 100 intro, where like it's like the epic Roman guy and then the black and white interviews with the fighters. I thought that was really cool. I liked how they did at the very beginning. It was like they showed the full screen of Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill, and it was formatted like UFC 1, like or whichever one it was, but like super old school. So yeah, I loved it. I loved how they walked out Mark Coleman. Everything, man. I thought it was tremendous. It's like you said at the beginning, man. When this sport is at its peak, it is tough to top, and it was at its peak on Saturday night.
Oh my gosh, it's like I still feel like I'm coming down from it all. I think it's worth just running through all the results, just because every 100%. Single one was significant and worthy of at least a mention here. Davison Figueiredo submitted Cody Garbrandt in the first round. In the second round. Another win for Figgy at 135 pounds.
Two very solid wins at 135. Like, that's a nice way to debut in that division.
I saw some people saying like, "Oh, he's fighting no-namers." Are you what?
No, get out of here. What?
Rob Font.
Who said that?
And Cody Garbrandt. Oh, I said the first thing I think I tweeted all night was, like 135 Figgy is a real thing.
We just can't even acknowledge those people. Top 10 bantamweight and a former bantamweight champion are his first two wins.
Next,
one dominant decision and another finish. Please.
And by the way, this isn't a struggling Cody Garbrandt. This is a Cody Garbrandt who had 2 wins in a row. And I know he's not fighting top 5 guys, but the last win over Brian Kelleher was a very nice first round finish. It looked like he had gotten his mojo back. So anytime someone moves up, especially in those 25, 35, 45 to 55 weight classes, you do wonder how they will look and fare. And so far, the extra 10 pounds is doing Figgy a lot of good. So love that start. Then we moved along to Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. What a moment for Jim Miller getting to fight on UFC 100. 200, and now 300. Unfortunately for him, it didn't go his way. A great bounce back win for another veteran of the game who has been around for so freaking long and has had so many ups and downs. Bobby Green, an OG of the game, a guy who debuted before UFC 100. 2008 was his debut. To get an opportunity like this in almost his 50th fight, I think if my math is correct, his 48th pro fight. This is a guy who is coming off a brutal knockout loss to Jalen Turner back in December. That was the short notice fight after Dan Hooker withdrew, and he gets a huge win against a veteran who is on a roll himself and doesn't just get the win, but bloodies up Jim Miller. I mean, that was, as Jim Ross likes to say, the proverbial crimson mask that Jim Miller was wearing, cut up, the pictures afterwards, pretty damn gruesome, but a huge win for Bobby Green, and I was very happy for him. Jessica Andrade, an OG in her own right, in what was her 38th pro MMA fight, former champion, of course, getting to fight a fellow Brazilian in Marina Rodriguez, an important fight in their weight class, 115 pounds. She picked up a big win. And that became a bit of a theme in the early prelims because the first few fights, except for the Bobby Green, Jim Miller fight, all had Brazilians going over. The next one was Manny Moicano, who, like I said, started off dicey for him, but what a story he has become. What a comeback, not only in his career, but also on the night against the very tough and very talented Jalen Turner. Manny Moicano gets the W, and then, as is custom these days, cuts a killer promo on a boatload of different things, economics, America, all kinds of stuff. But Manny Moicano is turning into a star. And I would love, just like I would love to see Alex Pereira fight in Brazil. I would love to see him fight in Brazil, but I feel like that's just, it's a shame. I almost wish that the Newark card was on May 4th and the Brazil card was on June 1st to give these fighters a little bit of more time. But unfortunately, not meant to be. Diego Lopez, another Brazilian, like I said, an incredible win, 2 mammoth uppercuts, and he disposes of Sadiq Youssef. He said afterwards that he wanted Movsar Evloev, and he wanted to fight on the International Fight Week card, and then he wanted to fight on the Sphere card on Mexican Independence Day weekend. So we'll see if it all works out for him. He didn't take a lot of damage, and of course, we're going to be joined by him. We're also going to be joined in about 20 minutes by Kayla Harrison. And what was interesting about Kayla was she was a talking point throughout the week. I thought she came across like a star. I thought she came across like a superstar at the press conference. And then we all wanted to see how she would look at the official weigh-ins on Friday morning. No beating around the bush. She looked sunken in. She looked tired. She looked drawn out. She wasn't shaking. It wasn't Aspen Ladd up there, but she definitely looked affected by the cut to 135. She had not weighed 135 since she was a teenager, and she freaking nailed it. She made the weight. She made 136. And then by the time the ceremonial weigh-ins happened, so like she made weight in the 9 o'clock local time hour. By the time 4 p.m. came around, she was, I mean, it looked like she had gained at least 10 to 15 pounds. And then in the post-fight press conference after the win over Holly Holm, she said she weighed around 155 to 160 in there. Now, I don't know how much Holly Holm weighed, but I can assure you it wasn't 155 to 160. She looked big. She looked strong. She looked healthy. Holly made the very big mistake of clinching with her and trying to go for a takedown. I think she was just sort of frazzled in the moment. In the second round, Kayla gets the RNC. And then what about Amanda Nunes in front of her TV, her former ATT teammate with the phone, waiting for the call out, doesn't get the call out. I'll ask Kayla, obviously, about that when we speak to her at the top of the hour. But I'll tell you right now, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes would be one of the most anticipated and biggest fights, especially if it's a returning Amanda Nunes, and especially if it's for the belt. Let's say Kayla gets the belt in the next, 8, 9, 10 months. Look out. The story there with them being former teammates at ATT, with whatever rivalry they once had, with whatever training sessions they once had, would be absolutely gigantic. Wouldn't that be amazing? This time next year, guys, let me ask you this. This time next year, do we get Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes? Does it happen or not quite yet?
Yes, we absolutely do.
You think we get it by then? How do you think it plays out? Because we have Raquel Pennington, right? We suspect it's going to be Pennington Pena. Both of them have great relationships with Dana White. We suspect he'll be a man of his word. That fight needs to happen. And then here's the question: does Kayla fight someone else in the interim?
Nope.
Okay. You just have her.
Kayla Harrison's next fight is against Amanda Nunes.
No.
Against the
I'm
champion.
sorry.
Against the champion.
Okay.
So against the winner of Pennington Pena, you do
Yep.
Kayla. So maybe that's by the end of the year.
Yep.
And then
Next year you roll into Amanda Nunes. Done.
wow.
Done and dusted.
Wow.
I mean, what else are you going to do with those? I was going to say that division, but those divisions, like, you've got no other options at this point. You need an injection of talent. You need an infusion to get people excited about that division, if 45 even exists anymore. And so this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Kayla Harrison versus the winner of the title, and then Amanda Nunes. Now, this is all predicated on the fact that Kayla Harrison wins that fight for the championship. Because if she doesn't, I don't think Amanda Nunes is going to be compelled to come back. So she's got her work cut out for her, but there is a path there to one of the bigger fights in women's MMA history.
I mean, I don't know if there's a fight that interests me. There's a million, and I'm not going to say that it is the most, but it is freaking up there. I don't even
Teammate versus teammate.
ex-teammate, but yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I should be clear. Ex-teammate versus ex-teammate. It's massive. With what are conceivably two of the best women to ever fight. If Kayla stays on this trajectory, obviously, I think she's a little young in her career to potentially put her there. But man, it's just a massive fight. It's one of the only massive fights the UFC has in those divisions. Let's call it what it is. They don't have options there that can be on that level.
The only massive fight.
Yeah, massive. I mean, Grasso Shevchenko's pretty big.
It's not even in the same stratosphere.
135.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking of all women's MMA. It's the biggest fight by far in all of women's MMA.
Yeah.
Even like if we want to play the super fight game, right? It's way bigger than it's what we thought Harrison Cyborg was supposed to be, and now it's like completely eclipsed it because of her coming back. Who would be the favorite? Is there even like a fictitious line for that? I don't even know.
No line.
What do you think?
I think
I would have to assume.
I think Amanda Nunes would be the favorite.
You think so?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, she was like a minus 900 to Juliana Pena and then lost, and then by brutal finish, and then came back and was still like a minus 300. I think she would be a favorite over Kayla Harrison. Probably not by a ton, especially if Kayla looks good in her next fight. But I still think she would be the favorite.
Man. So, wow, that's interesting. Don't have her fight anyone between now and then. Why go through it?
What's the point of that? Another weight cut for Kayla Harrison? Why? Why?
I'm cool with it.
Between now and fighting for the belt? No, you can't.
No, don't make her.
Well, then we
cut
need to
again.
get this Pennington Pena fight rolling.
Oh, well, that's a different story, but yeah.
Parlay Pals can go support
go.
the fourth Parlay Pal.
That's
Get
right.
this thing going already. Come
Well, because remember when we spoke to Pennington, and I know she doesn't fully have the say here, but she said maybe September or so.
Too late.
Too late.
Move it faster.
Too late. Man, but how about...
I'll tell you this.
What if Pena beats
Yo,
Kayla Harrison?
By the way,
Gets
Pena...
on the mic
yes.
and be like, you were going to come back, Nunes? How about you come back for my third fight?
You're right.
I still deserve that third fight.
Yes.
Okay, but here's the
Bit of
thing.
action at 135.
All of a sudden, right? It was
All
dead.
of a sudden.
It was like
It was-
DOA 6 months
it was
ago.
Not looking good.
If you are Juliana Pena
Weeks ago.
and you want to come back in September, but the UFC wants to put on a fight sooner, that puts an interesting kind of situation kind of on in play here. Because if Kayla Harrison can go, you could do a title fight with Kayla Harrison right off the bat. Why not?
Yeah. I mean,
Why can't Kayla fight for the title now, right now?
before Pena.
Timing is everything.
Would it shock you if the UFC did
Would
that?
it shock? Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
They bring in this big star. She wins
No,
by
it does.
finish.
Well, also, like, you know, Pena has been a little bit hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
So if she isn't ready to go, yes. Someone asked Kayla about the turnaround. She said she's going to need some time. I mean, she needed 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It was a 12-week camp. So it's not like she's going to be one of those people who can just turn around on 4 weeks. Dana White historically has had a very good relationship with Juliana Pena. I'd be surprised if she's healthy if they don't go through with this.
So why September? What is
The September thing is just what she said she wanted. But like, I mean, I don't foresee. Here's the thing.
That's a long ways away.
Here's the thing. It's not happening in May. Maybe the June card, but that's getting pretty close. Then you've got International Fight Week. Historically, they're not putting another, title fight on a Conor fight. Then we think it's Manchester, right? Doesn't really make sense, but I guess you could just put it there for the sake of putting another title fight. But why? If
You could already have two title fights. on
exactly. Then we get into August, and August is supposed to be Perth. kind of random. And then we
You
get into
might as well
September.
wait
Yeah,
to
and then we're at
September.
the Sphere. Are they putting it at the Sphere?
Because of Pena, I mean, she's Venezuelan. I just feel like there's going to be so many big options for the Sphere.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Would they go with that at the Sphere? Now we're talking about October. Are they going to Dubai? Are they going or Abu Dhabi?
I would love if some of these fights
know.
that aren't big sellers but are title fights would get reserved for like an ESPN,
Thinking the same thing.
you
Put
know,
this-
an
put this on
ESPN
the-
fight night,
on a big fight night.
right?
Oh, you could do that. I think you could do that.
I just they don't do it anymore.
Well, I know they made it UFC Noche, but they did it for Shevchenko.
Grasso and
too.
Shevchenko.
Yeah, but very, very rare. It
That
used
was
to be
also
a thing.
special night. That was a special night. Like,
Used
are
to
they
be a
gonna
thing
go-
with DJ back in the day. They put
Right.
him on Fox a bunch of times. They put Benson Henderson on Fox. Blah blah blah. I would love to do it, but it's just they need title fights to headline pay-per-views. Hence the reason why they brought the BMF back in July of last year.
They also need this division to actually
move.
and exist. Like it is eroding in front of our eyes. There is nothing happening here. It
Well,
needs
it's a
to
crazy
happen.
thing because it might be that right now, but on the horizon,
You got to get to the horizon. If we're
yeah.
just
Yeah,
pushing
we
it off a
gotta get
year,
to the horizon.
it does
And
not work.
Can't wait till September.
It
to make her
needs-
vacate.
The fight needs to happen. The fight needs to happen. We can't just watch this division just wither away. It is eroding. It is post Amanda Nunes. It has been no good. We need something to happen here, and Kayla Harrison can be that thing.
the conspiracy theorists will look into the fact that only one person was not given a post-fight interview, and that person was Aljamain Sterling. I don't know if it was a timing thing. I don't know how he feels about it. We can ask him about it. But I was fine with the win. He just needed to get a W. He needed to get back on track. New weight class, tough veteran, did what he had to do. And I suggested off the bat, why not Aljamain versus Movsar Evloev? Now, I had some lunatics get so offended by this. I mean, I was getting spammed. How dare you suggest Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling? First of all,
Why?
Aljamain Sterling is a former champion. He is way more known and popular right now than Movsar Evloev. What Evloev needs is a win over an Aljamain Sterling. Are you out of your freaking minds?
So the
Evloev isn't
position-
getting a title shot anytime soon.
The position was that Aljo is not worthy of a fight with Evloev. That was
That Evloev had just beaten the number 4 ranked guy, Arnold Allen. Why should he fight Aljamain Sterling? I mean, you're out of your fucking minds. You're out of your
not
absolute
paying
minds.
attention to how this sport actually works.
You're out of your minds. And honestly, that's a great, like, from a stylistic standpoint, that's fascinating theater
He
right
beat
there.
number 4, and the commentary in the post fight from Dana White was the most boring fight that he's ever seen in his entire existence. Like that ain't the one that's moving the needle. Fight
honestly,
Aljamain
It
Sterling.
kind of feels like the perfect fight. You get in against a popular
love
former
it.
champion or a notable known former champion during the you're not next anymore. After Max Holloway's performance on Saturday, you're definitely not next. So you need a fight in the interim. It feels like a good stylistic matchup for him, like a fascinating one that could lend to a fun fight. I feel like that's the best for Movsar. Who's going to fight instead?
I will say, from the other side of it, I would much rather see Aljamain versus Brian Ortega, if that's even on the table or
what
a
a fight.
possibility.
Too.
What a fight.
That doesn't solve Evloev's next fight, although I would do Diego Lopez versus Evloev if I was.
Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
get
too.
If I had the
rematch
pen too.
going? Mr. Decision.
He's
That's what
earned that.
Diego Lopez calls it.
Has earned that fight, in my opinion, and I think he deserves an opportunity to have it on a real camp and run it back. So those are the two I would do. I would do those if those are available.
So what's interesting is if they're going with Topuria versus Holloway, that's one title fight. Then who knows what happens there? What if it's an all-time classic and they run it back? And then if not, you got Volk right there. Like there's at least 2 to 4 fights before Evloev is in the mix. Just look at Merab, look at Bilal, look at Leon. It's just not happening right now, given the momentum or lack thereof.
Have I missed that? Like Evloev is like actually a title. Like what did I miss? Where is this coming from?
He's definitely a contender. He's in the top 5.
But like
and
he's
undefeated.
booked in he's waiting in line for a title fight already. Like when did this happen? I missed all that. I didn't see that.
In any event,
A lot of people were discussing that if Volk lost, but now Holloway
I love it.
is supplanted.
And you know what else I also loved? I loved on Saturday. See, we were talking about this maybe on Thursday or Friday. Someone tell me about their run-in with Yiri. And then all of a sudden I see this video of a fan saying that he was walking outside T-Mobile Arena late at night Friday going into Saturday. And there's Yiri Prochazka, who I can let you all know will be joining us on Wednesday's show. He's flying home right now, standing in front of T-Mobile Arena and like taking in the rays, taking in the power, taking in the energy. And I guess I missed the whole samurai thing, but was it Rakic who questioned his samurai ability or skills? I don't know what it is, but this is the closest that we have to a samurai in MMA. I don't care what you call him. The guy is the most lovable, crazy fighter that maybe we've ever seen, and he is so much fun to watch. And let's give Rakic a lot of credit. It had been 2 years, essentially, short of a month of a layoff with a really bad knee injury and all that stuff. He comes back. It was a bitter feud, all that stuff. And he was looking good, but you can't count out Yiri Prochazka. Now, if I'm Yuri's team, I try to slow my roll a little bit before I get back to Alex. Get on a bit of a roll here. But that was fantastic stuff. I thought that was the lock for fight of the night. I was like, okay, this is it. Yuri's getting 2 bonuses. And then, of course, Holloway and Gaethje meet up and do their thing. So that was tremendous stuff out of Yuri. Bo Nickel was upset with his performance against Cody Brundage. He immediately went like this afterwards. Bo Nickel, by the way, is going to join us on Wednesday's show as well. He beat Cody Brundage. First time he sees the second round. He's now 6-0. A ton of pressure, a ton of expectations. People were upset that he was on the main card. This guy's going to fight for a belt, and in my opinion, will be a champion in the next, 2-3 years. He's that talented. He's that special. People just need to chill a little bit. That was Cody Brundage's 16th pro fight. That was Bo's 6th pro fight. First time that he's ever gone into the second round, and he still won via submission. Like, what the hell are we talking about? But nevertheless, he puts a lot of pressure on himself. And he said, yeah, the 300K definitely made me press a little bit, but all good. I'll learn from this. The main thing I want to see from Bo at this point is just a little bit more activity. And there's a good excuse. He was having his first child. He wanted to be more present. All that. Like, the guy has been very active leading up to this point. But I'd love to see him get at least 3 fights in 2024. So that was the first. And the timeline would work. Maybe he comes back summer and then end of the year. Like I said, Arman Tsarukyan with the split decision win. I had it for him 29-28 over Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira showing up like I did back in 1995 to my bar mitzvah wearing the tallit. I still have no idea why, but I loved everything about it. That was incredible. And I got 400 texts from people that I know that were asking me what was up, and I still don't know. I asked his team. But a big win for Arman. We spoke about him, and we will talk to him in about 30 minutes' time. Spoke about Max with the knockout. We spoke about Zhang Wei Li and her win over Yan Xiaonan and how she almost beat her in the first round. And do you guys agree that it's got, I know she had to pull out of the last fight, and I know she hasn't been terribly active, but you got to do Zhang Wei Li versus Tatiana Suarez now, right? It has to be now.
Yep.
Like, that's another one. Don't, much like I would gather your stance on Kayla is like, don't beat around the bush, put her in a title fight next. Please put Tatiana in a title fight against Zhang Wei Li.
Who else would it be?
Well, I guess the only retort would be, oh, she was supposed to fight, she withdrew, blah blah blah.
Who cares? She's undefeated. She gets finishes. I mean, she's worthy of a title shot. And if you just look at the women's strawweight division right now, you have Zhang, who's obviously the champion, Yan, who she just beat, Amanda Lemos, who she's beat. Jessica Andrade, I don't think is at title shot level right now, especially not over Tatiana Suarez. Virna Jandiroba, Marina Rodriguez, like, none of these are title shot worthy. This is Tatiana Suarez.
Oh, I'd love to see that fight in China.
That would be amazing.
In China.
Oh,
Imagine that
would be incredible. That would be so good. Yeah, sign me up for that.
That's another one. If Tatiana's healthy, I really don't know. I used to think it was like fait accompli. Tatiana's fighting for a belt. She's winning. Zhang is so good, so strong, so powerful, so quick. I'm not really sure.
She got the dog in her too, man. She was looking gassed. She was looking bad in that third round after she wasn't able to get the 2 finishes. Even though that first round, like, Jan was out. Jan was completely out.
Yeah.
And, like, she technically did get a finish. And then she was just laying down hammer fists in round 2. Easily could have stopped that fight there as well. Jan also just tough as nails. Insane fight.
By the way, is that Jason Herzog Twitter account the real Jason Herzog?
I believe it's actually him.
Yeah, I think
wow.
it's actually him.
He was clapping back at a lot of people.
Replies. Yeah,
Did you see that?
He's pretty snarky and good on.
Well, he was replying, like, quote retweeting people who were calling him an idiot for keeping the fight going, and his responses were all like, "How much was the bet?"
Yeah.
or
Which, by the way, he's correct about.
he's 100% correct.
Like, it's usually related to some bets that didn't.
Related to the bets, but also, I mean, Yan Jianan was completely out.
She was
man.
out.
Like, what is it that they were talking about? Do you guys know of waking them up?
Smelling salts.
Smelling
What they were
salts.
saying was that they had smelling salts on their hands, and they were putting them under the nose of the athlete, which will bring them closer to consciousness and kind of wake them up. We don't know. I mean, it's impossible to say.
Whatever it was a great performance. And by the way, Yan was super tough too. Like, she didn't give up.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, she could have given up.
No, her stock took a jump up in my estimation. Like, she's going to come away as somebody who had a good fight with Zhang Weili. I don't think there's anything shameful about that performance, and she can build on that.
Zhang Weili put on 2 just absolute beatings her last time out and came so close to getting a finish a million times and wasn't able to finish either of them.
What's the most iconic moment of the main event? Because there's several, in my opinion.
Oh,
there's the walkout's always great.
Yeah.
The shorts were great,
Shorts were
right?
great.
Jamal waiting at the front of the
Sure.
cage was great.
Jamal catching the arrow.
Jamal catching the arrow was great.
Javal aged poorly though.
Sure, but I just like
but
in the moment, it's like,
in the moment.
oh shit. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing didn't last very long. 3:14 of the first round, it ended. Okay, the action early on, the kick to the groin,
That's the most
Herb stiff
iconic.
arm.
There's no question. He
The-
stiff-armed
the
him,
stiff-
and within 5 seconds, Jamal Hill is completely flat on his back, not knowing his name or where he is.
and then
Like,
it's the
I know.
what was this? What was
I know
this?
we zag, but I'm going with
the
the
Kabi Lame.
I don't know what that is. Tell me what that is.
He's a very famous influencer. I mean, like 100 million followers on TikToks, and that's what he does. He like takes videos where things are like incredibly obvious, and then he just like cuts in and he does the. It was basically just like you knew this was gonna happen.
He takes
Jamal.
videos that people overcomplicate simple things, right?
Yes,
People are
exactly.
doing too much with something that's very simple,
This is
and then
much
he
better.
shows you the very simple version
Oh.
and goes,
And you think Alex?
He just Kabi Lamed me. I gave like kind of a bad explanation of it, and he just made it really simple and easy.
and you guys think Alex was referring to that?
"Oh, that is what it
100%.
was."
Dude, this guy has
doing it. This
I
guy
actually
is
cannot believe you've never heard of him.
massively
I'm talking
famous.
like him and Izzy have hung out before. Like he has got on Instagram right now 81 million followers. On TikTok right now, like this guy is massively famous.
Wow. And where's he from?
I actually don't know. 162 million followers.
Whatever it was.
I'm sure you've seen his videos, by the way.
It was fantastic.
It was
Senegal. That's where he's from.
Yeah. And
100% him.
And before we get to Kayla, I mean, I talked about, all the big performances from Max to Kayla to Alex,
Yep.
to Armin, to Bo, to Renato, to Diego, etc. I mean, what about the performance? I don't know. I referred it to Wilt 100. I mean, every time I opened social media, there was another 10 memes by GC. Not even on Saturday. It was like kind of leading up to, I'd say, Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, and then yesterday. Every time, Saturday was like a real peak, but even yesterday, it was just meme after meme. And the crazy thing was, it was like, hey, GC, want to go eat? Want to go hang out in Vegas? Like, no, I have 2 hours. I was like, what could he possibly have to do? Now I know. He was working on all these memes, and I was getting texts from people like, this is the best one ever. No, this is the best one. Conor McGregor news, 8 memes. This thing, 8 memes. Like, someone in the I'm stealing it from someone, full disclosure, but I didn't like the meme king. You are the meme machine. I'm trademarking this.
I like that meme machine.
It was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was just meme after meme after meme. This is the greatest week of your life as far as meme, production.
Yeah, the socials are on fire right now, I have to say.
I mean, I was looking at some of your Twitters, like 24,000 likes.
Yeah, we got a 30K in there. We got several 20Ks. We got a lot of 10Ks. Yeah, I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Smoke them if you got them. I mean, this is
You're on
something
fire.
I knew it was coming. I mean, I think I started my 300 meme folder in like late February. I've been working on this for a long time now. Yeah, and I mean, even when you went on Twitter, the people were just like, Twitter was just on fire for UFC 300. I mean, I saw MMA memes and stuff reaching the mainstream, like getting like hundreds of thousands of likes, and you rarely see that unless it's a massive card. So, yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun. The MMA world was on fire. It was a blast.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.